Hi, it's Colleen Schmidt from Divination Counseling Service. I'm here today to present a full moon chart for February 12th, 2025. I'm also probably going to come back at some point and do, I think it's the 27th when we actually have, or 26th when we actually have a full moon, new moon, I'm sorry. So just to kind of distinguish between the two lunar phases that we work with. When you're looking at a full moon, you're kind of looking at the reflectatory factors that may have occurred since the last new moon or since eclipses, planet stations, and all the other things that could have happened in and around the degree that we're looking at, which in this case is 24 degrees, Aquarius Leo, 6 minutes. So fixed signs, all fixed signs, will be affected directly by what's going on. And that's the Scorpio, Taurus, as well as Leo and Aquarius. So anything around 24 degrees and right off the top, I don't even have to go very far into this chart, the first thing we see, ironically, in the second house, the house of values, the house of, what our value system is, what we're worth, what we feel we're worth, ethical issues, morality issues, moral issues. Uranus is in the second house. Okay, and this is Washington, D.C.'s chart with an Aries rising. Okay, so let's talk about that much. I know I have a lot of crap on the chart. I'm somebody who reads a lot of stuff. And though I know that many people who watch these videos do not, most people would prefer that I stayed with just the basic planets. Some people would say do the basic planets and throw in the trans-Neptunians. I don't work like that. And it's to my detriment in some cases because it makes me less palatable because I use so much astrology. But that's important to me, and people like me, so I'm not alone. I know there's others like me. But I do want to go through some things that are rather obvious in just the planetary formations. First of all, just to point out, I use Placidus houses in this software. I don't know why I don't use Placidus when I'm using Nova chart wheels. I tend to use Porphyry, which is an equal house system. But I like using my Placidus houses when I'm working in Solar Fire, and I think it's because I have a tendency to the very first thing that I do, and I don't do it as much in Nova chart wheels because I work completely different, and I'm hoping to be able to show this chart on both. I'm crossing my fingers because the software for the broadcasting, where I'm taping right now, is not fond of the interactive astrology software. Now, even though Solar Fire is a little interactive, I can still get it to stabilize on the program. I cannot with Nova chart wheels. And so if I do a part of this chart on Nova chart wheels, and I'm hoping to get that far, watching my time, I may have to get me off the camera. I'm sure that won't be too upsetting to most of us, but I did want to let you know that. I'm not off the camera for, reasons that I might be in a lecture. I'm off camera all the time in lectures because I'm not fixing myself up to go to a Zoom meeting. Sorry. And that means, what all it could mean if you're a female means I'm minus my bra, I'm minus combing my hair, I'm minus the makeup and the jewelry and all the other stuff that I might do right now. When you're off camera, you don't have to do that, and I love it. So, because basically I'm a little sloppy with myself, not so much my household. But in any event, getting off track, I want to talk about the fact that we have a 24-26 cusp to the 6th house and to the 12th house. And I want to talk about that because if we look at those houses. Now it's interesting because they're falling in the back house. Like for example, the sun is only 6 minutes rather than 26 minutes, so it's 20 minutes still remaining in the 11th house. But let's talk about that. The 11th houses are associations, are friends. It can represent goals. It's, for example, if you get published in a book, it's the 9th, but when it's out, it's like the 11th. It's like that kind of thing, okay? So it's like kind of a culmination of stuff. And what I'm getting from this, and it's real, this is why I have to look at asteroids. I just have to. If this is our house of associates, we can't ignore the fact that we got a Sappho straddling with us. So we got a sun Sappho, and you say to me, well, what does that mean? Well, Sappho is your platonic relationships, but Sappho is also very huge in the LBTG charts. It's that camaraderie, okay? And I feel when it's getting ready to go into the 12th, which is, let's talk about that. I'm a major 12th house person, okay? 12th house is about isolation. The minute I'm upset, nobody's going to see me because that's how I am. I've been known to isolate in my house for long periods of time to the point where people make fun of me. It's what I do to make myself feel safe. It's a highly spiritual house. I am a meditator and a contemplative, okay? I don't associate it with any religion because I'm not a religious person. I believe that religion is a lot of dogma. That's my opinion, having gone through a Catholic family, becoming a Lutheran, and then a Methodist, and saying sayonara to it all, because the human element in religion is really deadly. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about it. I just feel like that's not the right way. Okay, so we have a sun that is 20 minutes shy of going inside of the 12th house and isolating itself either with a group of people or a person or from a group of people, association, or person. So it sounds, and I'm going to get to what this could be, because you're saying to yourself, well, geez, in my life, that could be either or. I could be engaging with these people and just separating myself from these other people, okay? Right now, because of everything we're going through and the news that keeps coming out, we need to take care of ourselves. We may need to isolate, or we may need to find those people who are like-minded. Okay? I understand this. I think that I know, the United States, because, this is because of what's going on, but you know that whatever's going on here is going on everywhere. Okay? And so my feeling is that this is a lot of people within the world who are kind of removing themselves from certain things and then engaging with different people. I find myself doing it a little bit. I am somebody who's been isolated literally since before the election. Okay, and because I haven't even been online hardly. I was online, I think, the first time in a long time last month. And that's not, I got to tell you guys, that sun, that's not just me. That's a lot of people. Only recently, I've come out with some different friends. I've varieties of friends here and there. I'm an Aquarius. And went protesting. And how wonderful and supportive it felt to be around people who felt the same as I did. I can't even describe to you the feeling of being out there with these people, knowing that each one of us is representing more than ourselves. when we're out there. So I'm not saying everybody should do that, because I'm kind of that kind of person. I've been that kind of person since I was in high school. I am a protester. I'm an advocate. I'm somebody who stands up and deals with social injustice. I always have. I always will. It's not going to change. I'm always for the underdog, it seems. So go Eagles. Yes, I also rooted for the Eagles, who won the Super Bowl. So, which was a different group of people. But understand here that there are people in all of our lives that we either don't feel safe around, or we don't like their vitriol. There it is, okay? It's like these groups of people. So it's up to each one of us as individuals, regardless of who you are, where you are, you know, if it's your job, if it's your friends group. Because me, it's never my job. The people that I work, that are my clients, I adore. If I didn't adore you, if you crossed me in some way, you're probably not a client. So what I'm saying is that, you know, I'm not, even though I'm incredibly political, I do not believe that I will blame the other side. I don't do that. However, I don't like to be called names either. So understand that with this, and I explained this to a friend of mine, you know, I'm not going to nail anybody for whatever their beliefs are, but don't you nail me either. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think that more of us have to be like that, where we need to stand up for ourselves. So it doesn't matter if it's your boss who's a bully, if it's your partner who's a bully, if it's one of your children who's a bully, if it's a parent who's a bully. You need to do what you need to do. And I'll get more into that. And I'll get into why that's important. But I'm just describing it kind of one way right now. I'm going to show you, because you know I love repeatable themes. Repeatable themes they just grab all of our attention. And so as an astrologer, it's always really good to look for those repeatable themes. Okay, so let's look at the moon, who's hanging around with Earth, because they're in opposition to the sun. And here again, we see a cusp relationship. And now we're going from our self-expression of who we are. Boy, this kind of fits with my story about the protest. It's about who we are, but it's also about how we can be of service to others. It's about our jobs, our routine, our health, our sense of well-being, but our commitment to service, to being of service. Okay? Critical. And it's in opposition to the sun. So you've got one going from the 11th to the 12th house, and you've got the other going from the 5th to the 6th house. Okay, so my children, my creative ability, my self-expression, and then how do I utilize that? How do I make that a part of my routine? How do I, you know, make that healthier, or is that healthier? But here's a key here. And this is just me reading some asteroids. And I'll read more asteroids later, but I always like to start with the obvious here. First of all, it's coming with endings. Wow. They're in retrograde. So maybe these are endings that we had been thinking about for a long time. Maybe ending something that's bad for our health. Right here we with the straddle again. Maybe something that is emotionally disturbing to us needs to end. It's just something to think about. Maybe, you know, in order to fully express ourselves, we got to end some bad habits. Maybe we got to end the way that we're doing something, or eating something, or smoking something, or drinking something. But something has to end. Now remember, these are all on the same axes. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that some of the things we'll be ending could be Sappho, relationships. We have to be firm without a meet at 25 degrees. Okay, you see, we're only going from 24 into 25 degrees. We can go to 26 degrees even, because even in Uranian, 2.5 degrees is an absolute. But some people say that when it's around the cusp, you can go as high as 5 degrees. I'm not going to do that. I'm sticking to 2.5 degrees. But let's talk. What is it that we're learning that is causing us to either remain firm or to end something? Okay, that's just 2 points. I'm going to get to a third point yet, because there is today a third point. Okay. I also want to point out that, well, I'll get to that. I'm really jumping ahead here. There's so many things I want to point out in this chart before I even move to anything else, just because it's like glaring at me. Okay, so we have Sirius. And Sirius could be parenting. So that's why I said child and parent earlier. My vocabulary is really tied in with these asteroids. But it's also food. Okay, food, people. What is it we're hearing about food? And maybe our inability to get it. Okay, so Sirius is nurturing, but it's also nourishing. And notice that that moon is cusping the house of health. Okay, I've talked about this in the last chart. We can see how it's happening. I don't think you need to be, I mean, we've got an issue with chickens, now we've got an issue with cows. I think that now we have an issue with tariffs. So in other words, this whole thing keeps going. And there's a lot of ways that can be looked at. But the flu that's hitting the animals and possibly transferring to humans as we speak, I think we've had our first case. This is a world thing. So this food issue, I believe, is going to continue and probably get worse. So it's still in there. It's still very dynamic within the chart itself. Okay? But that's not good news, I know. Now, on a more mundane level, parents could be firm with regards to who their children are associating with or bonding with. I have heard many people, fortunately not around me, but I've heard, through social media and other ways, that there are issues with young men. And I call it the angry young man syndrome. And it's really interesting because when I was growing up, I literally skipped over that age group. I know it sounds really funny, but I think about it often as an adult. I realized it even at the time. When I was 19, the person I was dating was already turning 26. Okay, I ended up married to him for 20 years. I never dated anybody much in high school. Don't like the age group. Went to college, dance, so predominantly female, although the college itself went co-ed a year or two later. And honestly, I couldn't stand being there. I don't like the age group. It's not, I don't dislike men. Men are great. But I think that even a man has to recognize that young men have a little bit more issues. Fortunately, females, and I've trained females for decades when I was a dance teacher, they tend to grow up faster. 15, 16, they're already starting to make sense. Now, they're hell between 12, 13, 14. Yeah, you got to deal with a lot of the tears and all that, but, they grow up fast. Men, they get weird thinking when they're in a certain age group. And so, and I always laugh because I've never even dated anyone in that age group. I skipped right over it. And never started dating again until I was single, which was 20 years later. So never had that experience. So I never raised a boy. I did train boys, but very few by way of girls. And I honestly have to tell you that I am in touch with some of those boys, and they're nice men. So not every young man in this age group. It's just that this is an age group where the hormonal thing is weird. So I've been hearing a lot about that. Okay, look at that, 24 to 25, right inside the 12th house. So there are a lot of contemplative, and that's Mercury, Saturn, Neptune, Node, all in the 12th house. The house of isolation. So we're confining ourselves a little bit at this point. We are associating only with the people that we trust or feel safe around, or we're sharing spiritual ideals with. I have some of those kind of friends. Okay, so that axis is lit up like a Christmas tree. Okay, now the other stuff I want to talk about, because I don't want these videos to get too long, and my last one got right to the wire. I don't want to keep doing that, but there's always so much to say anymore. The other thing I really am, well, there's a couple things that we're going to be discussing. Let's talk about more cusps, okay? But I'm going to go to this Poseidon at 16 degrees Scorpio, 47 minutes, and you notice that there is an S here, which means Poseidon, as of February 12th, and by the way, that's tomorrow for, the record, we have a stationary Poseidon. Well, Poseidon is information, higher education, higher ideals, but it's also propaganda. Okay, it's also false information, which the world is filled with right now. Fake news, or as I like to say, FAUX news, news, or how's it? I'm not saying my French is bad, but what I'm trying to say is look out. That's stationary. Stationary always makes things very strong. It's a very dynamic energy. And it could also be telling us that the truth is going to begin to come out. For all of us, whatever that truth is. Okay? I like the fact that it's cusping the 8th house, but it's in the 8th house. Unlike Sun and Moon, which are traveling over, and another point I'm going to be talking about shortly, it's actually in its new placement of the 8th house, which is shared resources, taxes, inheritances, insurances. It's the sex, drugs, and rock and roll house, okay? But really just mostly sex and drugs. But it's a house that is a shared incomes. Like for instance, with partners, shared monies. If you're in monies together, if there's a group of people, it's the money, it's the 8th house. And that's where, I think that's where the news is going to come. I think that we're going to be hearing news about money that's a part of something. And I don't know, again, for everybody, it'll be different because depending where you are in the world. But look that it comes with memory. Okay, so we're going to hear about somebody screwed something up because they have no more mind. In some families, that's going to be true. Okay, I'm actually working on a lecture about mental decline. I don't know, it won't be, I doubt I'll put it up here. I'm actually working on another one for Knowing Your Astrology, but I actually give lectures for a Uranian group, and I'm working on that. And I'm going to tell you that that's a possibility that there could be news about something or someone and their memory, okay? Especially if you're working in an organization and the people who refuse to give up power, oftentimes, and they get old and they don't realize they're they're depleted mentally. It's like one of those things that's very, very sad to watch, but it also is something that the people that are going through it are not always aware of it. It's the people that are around. Isn't that interesting? Because this is the combined, okay? And it's, so there is something about memory in there and Poseidon. But it could also be, we're going to be finding out news and stuff we already knew. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that. I remember when that was said. I remember then that was done. So there again is a couple ways to acknowledge that. But it relates to combined money, okay? And a stationary, which is the S, means it's getting ready to now go direct. I believe it was in retro. It's black, so I'm going to say that it's going direct at this point. I'd have to double check it, but it's still black, which not red. Red S, getting ready to go backwards. It doesn't matter. Whenever you see an S for anything, it's significant in the chart. Significant. I know somebody that has an S on Mercury. I myself have an S on Kronos. So that tells you a lot about the individual, because that station planet is emphasized within the individual. Okay? So we have Poseidon. Now myself, I dive deep and heavy into spirituality. I do it for my mental state. I do it because I have a wonderful spiritual person in my life that we exchange things daily. And I think that for all of us, if we could go within and if we could just get a hold of that spiritual self within us, it gives us strength. It's, as I said to a friend, it keeps us from getting all emotional about things that are happening in life, and it allows us to remain calm. And when you remain calm, you make better decisions. Okay, so moving on. I got another one here. Okay, now, this is not a cusp, but this, let's go back to that sun and moon axis at 24 degrees, 6 minutes. And what is the sharpest square to this opposition? It's Uranus. And here's why I started with Poseidon before I did Uranus, because I actually looked at this earlier. Uranus is in the second house of money. Poseidon is in the 8th house of combined money. But our morality, our who we are in terms of ethics, morals, financially what we're worth, what we bring to the table. But it's not just what you bring to the table in a material sense. Of course, that's important. But what do you bring in terms of your ethics and your morals? Are you a kind person? Are you not a kind person? Are you a stingy person? So there's all these things that are wrapped up in this second house. Okay? Uranus is at 23 degrees of Taurus. Remember I said Taurus and Scorpio? 20 minutes, which means it is literally a less than a degree out from the sun-moon opposition. It is forming a T-square. Okay? I should be an expert on T-squares since I own a few. T-squares are interesting because I remember once being at some convention for astrology. It was back in the days when I was still going. I don't really go anymore, but I remember a woman coming up to me. I was probably the age of my daughter, and she we were talking about my chart, and she had said she, as an astrologer, a professional astrologer, never saw so many squares. I said, me neither, and I also am a professional astrologer. But what they mean is that, and this is true, people who have squares work hard. They work hard. And they can create miracles. I've done it in my own life. I've seen it in action. And it really works. So what we have is a T-square. Our values, our worth is in square because it's in Uranus, okay? And it squares that sun with our associates. In other words, I know I'm worth more than these people. Why are they doing this? Or I said to somebody the other day, one of the things I don't like about our political mess is I don't like being called names. And I think that's so juvenile. Now, I don't agree with you, but then I would give receipts. I'm not going to call you names. And I feel like if you're calling names, you might not have receipts. So there's Uranus in the second, okay? So here we are. Uranus is in that second degree. But it can also mean that our values are changing, our morals are changing, our value system within ourselves is changing. And it also could be referring to money. Money. Could be our money's changing. Now, Jupiter's also in this house, although, let's talk, Jupiter is outside of this, by 37, 38 minutes, outside of going from the second to the third. Okay? So it's going from the value system to the thinking house. I think because I am. Okay? So Jupiter's moving. All right? Could be siblings, could be neighborhood, could be, but it's going to be moving into the next house. Uranus is sitting in the second house at 23 degrees. It's going to be there for a while. Now, what's interesting about this, as a matter of fact, it will not even change into Gemini. I think it's like early next year. In other words, it's not even happening that fast. It's a slow mover, like Pluto, Neptune. It's slower, okay? So let's talk about just Uranus to the Sun and Moon. I wrote notes on this, so just because I wanted to be fully prepared, although the time is flying. It's a disruptive and upsetting time, and this includes our relationships with others. There's going to be a lot of difficulties because people, it's almost like you feel restricted with each, and you know what, that is true. Because I feel like there are people that are around me that I know feel differently than me, and I feel like I can't say anything. You're restricted. It causes a difficulty, okay? There's so much ego in all of this because of the square from the Uranus to the Sun. It is an ego thing. Okay, so people who are really, this is why it would be better if the Sun moved into the 12th, because the 12th house is not about ego. It's only about consciousness and spirit. So the ego is right now is struggling with this Sun, and there may be relations to ethics, morals, and money. They're in butting heads. Okay. Unexpected changes. Expect it, guys, because they're going to happen from everywhere. Do we really believe in what we're doing? Do we really believe in the direction that we're heading? I did. I went out and stood up for it. Some other people will because they will also stand up for things. But it is a time when you really have to evaluate, is this the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Just because you hang out with so-and-so and so-and-so feels that way, how do you feel? And do you feel differently? You have to reevaluate right now. That's, I think, the most important thing going on is that we really, really need to reevaluate. And the things that we're reevaluating are down here in the second house. And learning to stand our ground with Adamitas. Just like Adamite. We have to stand our ground. If you really believe in something, stand your ground and stick with it. If you find that you've been drug along by something you don't really believe in or care about, or you're beginning to see signs that where you are is morally or ethically not really in line with who you are as a person, then it's time to change. Because I want to tell you something. If you don't deal with that tension, the one thing I can guarantee you with Uranus and squaring both sun and moon is accidents. Accidents. That tension arises and it causes accidents. It can ultimately, because it's also affecting the moon, which is cusping that sixth house, your health. Your health is in danger with all of this tension. Okay? Speaking of the moon, it's tense. It's tense. Its close relationships will be probably the most affected. It's a time that forces people to make those necessary changes that maybe they've been reluctant to do. I'm hearing it from people, which is so exciting in some ways. I'm hearing it from people that they're finally evaluating certain things in their life and they're saying, you know, maybe I should change this. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, I could have told you that. But not my place to tell people. Not my place. Nor is it your place to tell people. Allow them to come to this determination themselves. Home repairs. That's this down here. Home repairs, people, is a possibility because of the moon. Because really what's going on, in part, is seeking emotional freedom. Okay? And in a country, I'm in a country where there's a great deal of misogyny. Okay? Twice I've been ripped off of a female president. And then I watch how these young men, angry young men, do stupid things like boo Taylor Swift, who represents a huge economy on her own. What are you, stupid? Or is it because you just can't get a girl like that? Because you'll never get a girl like that if you're a misogynist. And so here we go. Do we need to think about this? I'm thinking we do. Because I'm telling you something, the independence of women is not going away. I don't care who tries to shut it down. Somebody actually wrote that on a Facebook post, and I'm going to tell you, he got nailed over and over. And not by just other women, he's a man, but not just by women, but by men. Because there are men who also don't want to see this. Speaking of men, with the moon in opposite sun, in that square with that Uranus, men can have a very unstable attitude toward women right now. And I've seen it. And I think this is not happening just here. It's happening everywhere. It's just that here we tend to be, and I know if you're outside of this country, you probably agree with this. We probably are the most misogynist country. And the reason why I say that is because I know women who are like that. It's like, what? Okay, so yeah, it's a strange thing. It's a strange thing. But it's also one of those things that's really held us back. It's held us back. Okay, so these are things that'll be looked at. So the houses that I've accented so far were the 11th to the 12th, the 5th to the 6th, the 2nd, and the 8th. Okay? We went through a lot of houses already. Now, let's talk about a few other things. Okay? First of all, I want to talk about Venus. Venus? Okay. Venus is in Aries. Very interesting because probably the weakest place for Aries, is Aries the weakest place because Venus is really Libra. However, as somebody once pointed out on another video, and I forgot about this, it's Morningstar Venus. It's a warrior Venus. Yeah, women on the warpath. So it's kind of an interesting, because in the United States chart, it's about 1.5 degrees away from the ascendant, coming in from the 12th. In other words, coming in from isolation, coming in from kind of being unseen, we have women. And I think that's going to be significant moving forward. The warrior woman is coming to sit right there. So you're talking about 5 degrees, 26 minutes to 6 degrees, 52 minutes. Okay, so obviously within that. Now, in astrology, we tend to look at the ascendant, the midheaven, the nadir, the descendant, as places where you can go up to 10 degrees to pull in these asteroids. Okay, but Venus or planets or trans-Neptunes, you can go out 10 degrees. Venus is only out in it about 1.5 degrees. So it's really strong, okay? And other things that, you know, if you look at, that's a very full 12th house, okay? Very full, because you've got Mercury, Saturn, Neptune, Venus, all there. And then you've got the sun coming in to the 12th. So we have this huge 12th house, which means to me a lot of things are going on behind the scenes. Things that we may not be aware of in our lives, okay? And the other thing I want to point out while I'm here, that, again, is related to this chart, the cusping chart. I already talked about the endings. I talked about, I think where I was actually, where am I? Okay, right up here. Okay. So we get to this 11th house cusp. Now think of this as the 10th house cusp is how you want the world to see you, and it's the career house. And then we go into our associates, people we associate with. And I want you to look at this cusp. Lilith. Remember all the stuff about women? Lilith is running on the cusp as well. Okay, so Lilith is about competition, selection, rejection, a lot of times gender issues, especially gender issues on the 11th house. I mean, the house of associates, that's kind of strange right there. Okay, gender issues. But again, if you look at Lilith in relationship to politics, which is, you know, this palace here about 2 degrees away, 2 degrees and 20 minutes to be exact, so less than 2.5 degrees, you have to ask yourself, in politics, and this is probably for everywhere, we see this rejection, rejection, totally Lilith forward, of a political situation or of politics or of a political party. Okay? And I'm going to tell you that with it being next to and in between, okay, so look at this, 26, 27, and 28. I hope you can see that. We see that there's a lot going on with that rejection of political party that we don't know about. We don't know about it. Remember, Poseidon just went stationary. Okay? So when you put this all together, we are in an interesting time. Okay? I always like to tell people the story that in Uranian astrology, we tried to figure out when was the last time we've been through something like this. They went back 70,000 years and there is nothing. We're here. Last time it was even close, it took 20 years to get through this. We're going to do it in less than a year. So whatever's going on is starting to, I think, make a mark. Okay? And I think it's going to start to abrupt. The abruption is what's going to cause the changes. But I think it's also changes in our relationships, and that is the beginning, and then it shifts to, it goes from this level to the higher level, okay? We have what's going on right now that because it's such an erratic time and because of Uranus in the second house and it's squaring both the sun and the moon so closely, you have to be really, really careful of not being so quick or hasty. Don't do the quick to judgment thing right now, people. Step back. I'll tell you why in a second. I'm just kind of finishing up this and then I'm going to go on to that. Because right now what's going on is, in a way it's good because what's happening is it's going to arouse our independent and rebellious spirits, especially women. And we have to be careful because right now we might act in ways that we normally wouldn't. Okay? But do you know how we're going to get through this too? And it's going to go slow. Guys, it's going to feel slow. That's all I'm going to say. It's going to feel slow, slow, slow. Okay? It is what it is. Okay? Because that's at the midheaven. So, here we are, we've got this very slow, moving. Now, the thing of it is the good news is the slowness is moving out of realm. So it's not going to affect us. And the one reason why it's not, it feels like it's slow, but it's really not. Never and before have we done this stuff so quickly. We have to remain logical. We have to remain logical. Urania, one of my favorites. It's an asteroid of astrology. Astrology is logic. So are computers, okay? And I can see this logic, okay, is there. Cupido's there too. So Cupidos are the families, but they're also the parties. So I don't, Cupido, everybody thinks Cupido is this great, oh yeah, it's Cupido, happy, love, family, community. Yeah, right. Okay, no. We got a party right now that's a minority trying to take over a majority to the point of stealing and cheating. I wonder if anything's coming out there. And I like this. And I'm just, this is something that I wasn't going to talk about, but you know what? I am. Because I keep going back and forth. Do I want to talk about it? Do I not want to talk about it? The chaos. The chaos is about 1.5 degrees off of the IC. Okay? This Shiva, Siwa, S-I-W-A, is retrograde. However, it is exactly opposite within 4 minutes of Cupido. Okay, so there's going to be a withdrawal from a party or a family, a withdrawal from a community, okay, in order to rebuild it, in order to reestablish, and in part, and these are not in aspect to the angle both together, they just work with each other. Hades is the only one that would be even under the angle because of the 10 degrees. But I want to share what they mean together. I talk about Hades and Kronos a lot, and I'll probably do a video exclusively on this combination, which will be direct by 2030 and up to 32, but according to my teacher could affect us for 60 years, okay, after. What it is, now I in medical world, it's great breakthroughs, major breakthroughs, and we are having them. Too bad our health system is under a duress, but there are things coming. But they're already an aspect, and what we're witnessing is bad decisions. Bad decisions, people. And so these bad decisions could be affecting our homes. In other words, people could be making bad decisions about their homes, or they're making bad decisions about how to solve the problems. But only Hades is in there, which means there's something nefarious about all of this. Something very nefarious. And it's been ongoing because it's a retrograde. Something to think about. So then, I go back to the thing that I didn't want to talk about, but I'm gonna, which is chaos. Chaos is what brought us here. Okay? Chaos is depressing people. Not for long. It's going to cross. Okay? The asteroids move a little quicker. But that chaos is going to be an inspiration for what will come next, which will be withdrawal from a party, a group, or an association, and because of the bad decisions in the house. Now, in America, we could take that literally. Because of some of the bad decisions in the house, there will be people within the house that might start changing their way of voting. So we can look at it literally, we could look at it figuratively, but there's a lot of ways to look at this. I am, for the moment, I'm going to go grab something. I have my paper over here with my asteroids on, and we're going to look at them in relationship to the chart, anything they might add. And then I may have to end it there, and I'll leave the Nova chart wheels work till the next time, which will be the new moon, and just do them every other, because you're not, again, you can't really see me on those charts. So let me, okay, so I got our list. I actually did two lists. I thought that it might be interesting. I have a money list. When I do astrology, there's literally more than 24,000 asteroids. And I don't use all of them, but I use hundreds of them. And so what I've done is I put them on separate lists. And that way we can, examine the money aspect of things too, which I think is really important. First of all, let's start off with the fact that we did have a 5 degrees Venus, which is a money planet, and it's actually equal or opposite, directly opposite over here, actually, from the 6th, a 5 degree Libra, 2 minutes. It's retrograde, but it's Apollonia. So it kind of is looking at one of the things that we're dealing with is the money, okay? Now, it's a 12th to 6th house, so it's getting the money that you're worth, okay? And the fact that people may be concerned about getting what's due them, all right, during this time period. The South Node is also, and we're going to see, is in that 6th house, okay? So that too is a factor. That, that we're being oppressed, or we're feeling very, very oppressed. So it's not an aspect of this. Actually, it is, to be honest with you. I lie. Even though it's all the way here, it's still only 5 degrees or 7 degrees out, which does make it in aspect, okay, because it's 29 degrees of Virgo. Because the nodes changed. They went at the 0 degree points where we last spoke, that they're now going backwards into those signs. So it's Pisces and Virgo. And the Virgo is in the South Node arena, where the Pisces is in the North Node arena. But they go backwards, so they're now officially in those signs. So there's a lot of things that we might be looking at that are ending, and this will be interesting. This will be interesting how we deal with these endings. As I move on, I'm just looking at the money asteroids at the moment. I can tell you that Not is up here at the midheaven. Not. Things are not to our liking. And I think that's everybody. Okay? Now, I know in America, that's going to be a definite. Let me see. I'm just going to make sure that I don't see, yeah, we don't have anything else that would affect us as directly. Okay? I don't have, now, around the sun, now, because I can go to the sun, Mercury's 2 degrees away, and then 3 degrees the other way is Coin. Now, Abundantia is at 28 degrees. Now, none of this is really an aspect to that sun. It's still 4 degrees away. The only thing that I would say could be is Mercury. So I think it's news more than it's abundance, or it could have new. We're going to get news. That's for sure. Because when I look at the angles of the chart to pull in the rest of the asteroids, absolutely. Okay, Hermes, right at the Aries point. News is coming, world. News is coming. Okay. Now that Aries point is 2954. It's literally 6 minutes off of. Okay. It's also conjuncting the North Node. It's right here. Okay. And it makes me wonder if we're not going to hear something about Neptune, which is secrets, deceptions, and things that we're not aware of. Okay? When we also look at that, one of the things I would say to you is that if you're speaking to somebody and you're not sure if they're being deceptive, because Node with Neptune, that's a lot of deception with contacts. What I would say to you is check their face. And anyone with any degree of intuition is going to figure it out right there. Okay? I would say to you that doing things, well, let me start at the ascendant. Let's start over here. I was actually going to start down in here, but let's start here, okay, at the Aries point. And one of the things I'm going to tell you straight up, besides the fact that you can look forward to news, okay, because you can, you have to understand that this one's coming with a Boracices. And what that means is that there's something that we believe inside of ourselves that if it happened, it would make us happy. I think some people think having this guy in as a president was going to make them happy. But guess what comes with it? Laverna. Not true. Not true, people. Not true. Okay? I think it's something that is a lesson, though. And that's why I won't condemn anybody. I don't want to berate anybody, because my reality is that this whole situation is about lessons, and we all have them. Okay? Bacchus is telling, and Aurora are telling us two things: that there's an addiction to a form of chaos or to scattering things. But it also is a warning that people that we might be listening to, counting on, thinking that they should be great, like these people in the White House, they're drug addicts. Oh my God, you can't even tell me they're not. They are. They've admitted it. So you're looking at a bunch of drug addicts who are creating with our money. And it's happening at the Hill. Could this be more exact? It's all doo-doo, though, people. And it's about narcissism. It's about narcissism. I am going to tell you the truth is going to come out. I can tell you that it's here. I can tell you that it will happen because somebody is coming to help. Circe. Okay? And believe me when I tell you that Circe is the truth. And we need the truth because we can't move forward. And it's going to be the truth about structures. And it will be humiliating. It will be humiliating. Okay? That's our ascendant. Now let's look over here at our partners and the people that we're dealing with, okay? How do they see us? Well, South Node. Oppressed. Oppressed. Okay? We're also oppressed. Clotho. This is the beginning of grieving. So many, many things. Apollonia. So many things we're going to be grieving. Berners-Lee. The computers. What's on the computers. Memories. So we're going to have to start remembering things because they're going to start doing away with things. We're not going to get news, people, unless we know how to find it. This stuff that you're seeing on TV, nothing. Okay? And I don't know if this is just our country or all of them. Something is infiltrating the world right now that is ugly. And they don't want us to know. So there is this thing about the computers, and it could also be that a lot of us have to use our computers more in order to do our research. Hippocrates is about our health. It's about our health and the health of the brain. So somebody's thinking about somebody's brain not being healthy. Okay, I told you that was a big thing in the charts, guys. This whole diminished brain thing is huge. By the way, these are retrograde, so much of this is ongoing. Arachne tells you that there's intrigue and it's complicated. It is complicated, the intrigue. But Rosetta tells us the truth will set us free. All along, the most important thing in this country so that we can help the rest of the world is that we need a handle on the truth. And we're not going to get it on our television stations, let me tell you. So that's how they see us, okay? So they also feel that there is health-wise that things are getting bad. And I think our health, I really worry about our health systems because I really think all of this chaos is going to already take down an already weary and unstable system. So guys, really start looking about the healthcare system. It's real important. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the midheaven, all right, because this is the world, okay? This is our objective in the world as the United States. This is where we connect to the higher consciousness. Are we connecting with the higher consciousness? Anyway, that's a whole other thing. Couple of things here. The sun is the sun is, I did not get to this. All right, so before I get to the midheaven, sorry, I just went off on a tangent in my mind. I do want to talk about how the sun is running with Zeus and Sappho. And one of the things, that means the asteroid Zeus is up here. Excuse me. And what that means is that somebody's being inspired. So that Sappho is about inspiration. I felt that way, when I was at the protests, that I was very inspired by my colleagues and comrades. That it was, the whole thing was inspirational. And it was Zeus. So I think that means more protesting. I hope so. And, I forgot to bring that up, so I just wanted to mention that was in there, and that's really important. But I'm also going to tell you, which you didn't see, is with that Mercury, and I talked about Mercury briefly, is coming with Champ. So it's like kind of being humiliated by the news that is coming out, okay? Or somebody once said, you got to look at things like, you got to look at things for, how do I say this? When you're looking at, especially astrology, you want to, as much as you really want to study those individual points, don't get me wrong. But it's always going to come out in the bigger picture. As you've already heard me speak, I've had repeatable themes, which is the objective of the video, by the way. So the very last things that I want to look at, as I got back to, is this midheaven, which starts with melancholia, okay? So we have a melancholia. And I've seen this, I've talked to people from the ledge. It's people are getting depressed with what's happening in our lives, but they're also waking up. So this depression, this melancholia is waking people up, thank God. I've been asking the question since the 80s, are we asleep? Delphi and Varda is that they're intuitively we're getting the truth. Many of us intuitively are getting the truth. I feel a sense of calm. I have for weeks now, maybe months, because I did that last video and was already feeling better. I know we're okay. I know we're going to be just fine. I know this is a wake-up call. I know we'll do the right thing. I feel it. So do many, many other people. Delphi is what we're doing, fortune telling, predictions. I don't really predict as much. Well, if you were a client, that would be different. But for these, I try to keep them more general. And I can tell you that hubris is karma, it's fate. This is all fated. Oya is talking about the changes, it's also the power struggles. Eos is again that chaos and how the chaos is being used to manipulate us with that wiles because they're not credible. Not and Credo are working together. They're not credible. My God, look at the people who took the jobs in the cabinet. They have no credentials in the fields they're going in whatsoever, okay? I mean, it's awful. Axiom is telling you that there are rule breakers that literally are. This is interesting because these people think they're breaking our dreams, but the reality is that I see in the midst of this chaos and the midst of all this breakdown that we, the meek, who shall inherit the earth, have an opportunity to set things right and maybe create a better democracy than we have now, one that is more inclusive and more equitable for all people. Okay? I know you're probably thinking, well, you're an American, you're supposed to be that way, right? No, we're not. Remember that the country was founded by white men who had slaves. So there is things in our law that are not quite right. And we need to fix them. I can tell you as a woman, I've gone through a lot of crap getting a bank card in this country at one point. Okay? So, no, we got a lot of work to do. And this will give us our opportunity. And so with that said, we're going to go down here, and it's time for us to do this on our own. Proserpina, this is our journey to take. Use your intuition. And then it says, watch out for those who are addicted, either to the chaos or to drugs or to misogyny. I know some of those. So there's a lot of that. But I'm going to tell you guys, listen to your intuition. When it comes to chaos, they're only doing this as a scapegoat. They're trying to find shortcuts. The hack's in there, by the way. Hack. Well, I think if it's a shortcut, but let me tell you something. We got a problem with hackers this very moment. Whether it's North Korea, who's already been in the U.S. aid, or if it's those 19-year-olds hacking away at our Social Security numbers. We got a problem. Libitina says there will be tears. There will also be a deconstruction in order to reconstruct. And I'm going to tell you that there is issues with illnesses and diseases. So that's already beginning. I'm very concerned about that. I have been on here long enough, so I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully this was informative. Hopefully even more so it was helpful. But we are going through something here. And I think we're going to learn a lot. And it will, in the end, present many, many opportunities to do it right. Until we meet again, I wish you all only happy